evening or good afternoon, in whatever place in the world you are. My name is Antonio Hernandez, and I wanted to make this video to talk generally about my life, about what has been my experience dealing with Asperger syndrome. And I'm gonna do a brief summary in terms of what has been my whole life with the condition. My life with Asperger has been a very very difficult life, and it's been a very shaky, wreck road. I'm gonna start from the very beginning. According to my parents and according to my medical documentation, my condition with Asperger started when I was born. Immediately when I was born, because my mom had problems in terms when they were trying to get me out of her womb. My head got stuck. They had to do different procedures so they can get me out, and that had an effect in terms of my brain and my head, and that caused me to have Asperger's. My condition was not formally diagnosed to at least when I was 3 or 4 years old. During that time, especially when I was 4 years old, I entered to the special education programs in school programs where I was living in Puerto Rico. I entered there. I was very unconscious. I have language problems. I couldn't speak any. I could speak, but I was speaking in gibberish. Nobody understood what I was saying. I was living in a very strange world. And anyway, I entered there in that special education program when I was 4. I was there for 2 years, and then it was a very difficult period, because in terms of dealing with other people, other kids, not understanding well the things that they did to me and the things that I did to them. I didn't understand them very well, because during that time I was not conscious at all. And it's very I don't remember too much in terms of that period. I had good moments, I had to admit, and bad, but in terms of that, the majority, the thing that I was somehow conscious was that I have language problems. In Spanish, problemas de habla, and that's why I took language therapy during those years. And obviously, I took those 2 years in the special education program, and after that, I transferred to kindergarten. According to age, living in the United States, I was scheduled to enter to kindergarten when I was 5 years old, but since I was in the special education program for 2 years, I entered to kindergarten when I was 6. I went, they put me with the normal group, and it was a very difficult period, adjusting to being with other kids, doing their lives, the way that they behave, they communicate with other kids. I felt very out of touch, and I also felt very rejected, even though I was able to make a few friends, but they were not really my friends. And but it was a very difficult period. They made, I did see things that I was not very conscious of it, that I regret, to this day. But I was also bullied, because of me being different. And that's until I graduated from kindergarten when I was 7. I was not through that period, from when I was 4 years old to 7 years old. I didn't know anything about autism. I didn't know anything about Asperger. I was not conscious. All I knew was that I had language problems. That's all that I knew. I didn't know about my social communication problems with interacting with other people. I didn't know about all that. Nothing. Only language problems. And the cycle continued on. I went to the third grade. I was in my first school. In my first school, I was technically it was my second school because my first school, pre kindergarten. I was in that school. My second school, I was 6 years. 2 years of special education, and 1 year of kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. And then I moved out of my second school because of family problems. My mom moved into the States. It was a very difficult period. And me moving with my dad, and then I moved to another school. And when I moved to another school, I was 10 years old. And by that time, I still didn't know what was my condition. All I knew was that I had language problems. That's all that I knew. I didn't know about that I have Asperger's. And anyway, I was very confused. I was unconscious of the things that I was doing. I always had problems interacting with and making friends. And I was able to make friends, but they weren't really my friends. No, they just used me for do their stuff, to do their favors. And the problem is that I was not conscious of it. I was feel like a slave. I didn't know. I really didn't know what I was doing at that time. And sometimes I didn't understand insults, the language that they speak of. I didn't understand the jokes that they were saying. There's a lot of things from those first 6 years from my second school that I didn't understand, that I don't remember too much. And it was but I had good moments. I have to admit I had good moments. But I was very unconscious, very very unconscious. I was dealing with school problems. I hated school. I hated my second school, my first school. I have family, problems in my family. Fights with my brothers and brother and sister. And I was very unconscious. And I was doing things that they were wrong, but I was not conscious that I was doing it. It's very difficult for me to explain this because I don't remember too much. But anyway, I transferred to a third school. I was there to the 6th grade, which I graduated. And those 3 years were pretty bad. My dad was very difficult. Problems with my brothers and sister. It was very difficult. Family problems, which were not helping me in terms of my condition. And the same problems in school. Problems of I made friends. I admit that I made friends in that period. They were good moments. Friendship and all. But then later, problems arose. Rose with my friendships in that third school. That those friendships were gone. And I felt that they would, those so-called friends told me that I was responsible for breaking those friendships, that I was an evil person, that I was dupe, that I was dumb, that I was not too smart to know certain things. How could I know such a things? Okay, and some of my friends, one of them was a very, smart student. He always brags about being better. I got some things of him being better, consciously and unconsciously at the same time. And he really was not helping at all. It was really not helping at all. I was not being myself. I was being pushed around and controlled by other people in that third school. I had problems with not teachers. I have good relationship with teachers throughout my school life, with a few exceptions, obviously. But in terms of that school, I was bullied. I was called many different things, just like my second school. But from the time of my during that time of my third school, I stopped taking language therapy. I didn't take any more language therapy. I was completely full full normal into the normal program. But from that period, I think it was the year 2000. That's the year that I changed schools. From that period of 2000 through 2003, when I graduated from the sixth grade, good grades, having good grades. That's something in terms of the good grades. My periods of having good grades have always been there. I've always done my job. I've always listened to the rules of the teacher. I've always got good grades, always A's. So in terms of my academic performance for my first 6 years of school was pretty good. There was a few exceptions that some teachers hurt me emotionally, and it was pretty. Those moments were pretty bad, but they were not a lot. But what hurt me the most was in terms of being bullied and being misunderstood by my so-called friends, even being insulted consciously, thinking that not understanding their jokes, and I don't know. I don't remember too much in terms of what other things happened during that period. All I know is that I didn't enjoy it. I didn't really enjoy it. Then from the third grade, graduating from, the sixth grade, I moved to I was my first years of school work. And I was in the public system, which was pretty bad in Puerto Rico, and it still is. It's pretty bad in other parts of the states. It's pretty horrible. I moved to a Catholic private school. I moved there with one of my friends from the third school, and I moved because I didn't want to be alone. I don't like being alone. I didn't like to be alone. That's why I was staying with the people, with the same friends that even though they were doing things to me, I still stayed with them because I was afraid of being alone and being more bullied. And then I moved to the Catholic school, and the same thing happened. I was bullied again, misunderstood, called different things homo because they were pushing me to touch girls' private parts, and tell me that if I like girls or not, and I say I respect girls, of course I like them. Saying why I didn't have a girlfriend, they were calling me all this homophobic bullying, which is responsible, with people that have different sexual orientations and misunderstandings, which has caused a lot of suicide. And it's something that I hate about school. I hate the school system. I hate it. But I went through all of that shit. I went through being misunderstood, having language problems, people not understanding me not understanding other people, and I went through that. And that's the seventh grade was a very tough year. I got not so good grades. There was this teacher, science teacher, that cost me, which was an evil, bad person with me, and he gave me a B minus, almost a C. But I thank God I was able to survive that year. I then entered to the 8th grade. It was pretty bad also. My group, I was in a bad group. My group, did things, made the teachers angry, and I changed group because it was affecting my academic performance. And then my problems with making friends, different problems. I had this group of friends in the school, but I have problems with them also, and they didn't understand me. They used me. I did things. I admit that I did things that may have hurt them, but I did it unconsciously or a way of defending myself because I was being misused and insulted all the time. And I didn't leave them because the same reason of my predecessors, my last schools. I didn't want to be alone, be more bullied. And looking back right now, one of the things that I regret is that I was too nice with them. I was too nice with the group of friends that I made in that Catholic school, and also with my last schools. I was too nice, too soft, consciously and unconsciously, because of fear. I really didn't want to hurt anybody, and instead I ended up hurting myself. Being angry, pushing walls, etc. Those factors, plus family problems everywhere. It was pretty tough. By then, at the 8th grade, in the 8th grade, I finally asked my dad what, because I was living with my father during that time, and I was asking what I had. He told me that I have autism. That's the first thing. That was when I was 14 years old. That was the first time that I heard the name autism. The name autism. Before then, I have not known anything about autism. I've always known that I've always had language problems, and that was the reason that I was taking language therapy and other types of therapy. And then I find out that I have autism. That I had autism. That was my diagnosis when I was very little. And talking to those, I was in that Catholic school for 4 years. Well, pretty tough. I was being too nice. I was being angry with the wrong people. People that were helping me, family included. I was not controlling myself. I was doing things consciously and unconsciously. Language problems, speaking problems, fear, anxiety problem, difficulty making connections and other types of friendships, being being anxiety, fearful of other people, bullies, what they can do to me, walking, difficulty, anxiety, not going to a specific place in school so I can avoid being bullied. In other words, if I can summarize it, it's one word: fear. Fear run my life during that time, and it still does today, sadly. And I was thankful that I was able to survive my academic performance, my good standing with the teachers, my teachers doing from the 7th to the 10th grade. I was not feeling too good, especially my last year. That I was going to move on. I wanted to get out of that school. The same story repeated itself from my first 3 schools. Anyway, I stayed there for 4 years. I changed school when I was 17 years old. Initially I was going to come to the United States, but because of family problems, my mom living here, problems, not involved with me, but in terms of family, mom got married again and all that. Family problems here, in the States, my mom, family problems anywhere, and school problems. I was able to go to another school. Reason is that my dad was getting married again, and I moved to another school to finish my last 2 years of high school. At the beginning, when I went to that school, I thought it was going to be pretty good. Small groups. I was impressed in the beginning when the things that they told me about that school. But then 1 month later, I was completely frustrated. Really, there was a lot of changing teachers. Teachers resigning, and teachers. There was the problems once again of bullying, misunderstood, being called gay, homophobic, just like my previous schools. The same shit. Having difficulty making new friends. Even though I make friends there, misunderstanding again, not really being friends. I call the people that I really made friends, not really my friends. I stay